All right, morning. Okay, good morning. Napanood nyo na ba lahat ng videos? 3.1 to 3.6? If you have questions, uh, you can ask them now. Okay? Using the raise hand question, so I can give you time to ask question, or you can use the chat box for your questions. 3.1 is about functions of several variables. Basically, the objective for that section is finding the domain and range of functions of several variables. Section 3.2 is about contour maps and level curves. Basically, this is one way to graph functions of several variables. Then yung remaining sections 3.3 to 3.6 are all about partial derivatives. Okay, meron ba kayong question? Okay, so kung wala kayong question, siguro try na lang nating sagutan yung mga exercises na provided. Okay. So let's start with section 3.1, functions of several variables. Okay. Okay, so ito yung mga exercises in section 3.1. So there are actually 5 problems, and in these 5 problems, you are asked to determine the domain and range of the function and sketch the domain of the function. Okay, so let's start with item number one. So item number one, you're asked, the function given is f of xy equals square root of y plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so take note that this is a function of two variables, so your domain should be the set of ordered pairs. Mabagal siya dito. Okay, so dito na lang natin siya i-discuss. Okay, so again for item number one, the function f of xy equals square root of y plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so from this function, this is a function of two variables. So since this is a function of two variables, the domain should be the set of ordered pairs, or the domain should be a subset of R squared. Okay. Again, the domain should be a subset of R squared. Okay. Since this is a square root function, and we know that if we have a square root function, since we are just working with the set of real numbers or under the set of real numbers, the radicand or the expression inside the square root should be greater than or equal to 0. So for item number one, we should have the condition that y plus 2x minus 3 should be greater than or equal to 0. So that will actually constitute the domain of the function. So pwede nating isulat that the domain of the function, take note that it should be a set of ordered pairs. So that should be a set of ordered pairs x, y, such that y plus 2x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? As for the range, pwede mo tingnan to as z equals square root of y plus 2x minus 3. So ang output mo is just a value or one number. Okay? So the range, since this is a square root function again, and here you are taking the principal square root of the function, since you are taking the principal square root of the function, so obviously the function value should be non-negative. So from that, we can now write the range of the function as we can write it as z of all z, element of the set of real numbers, such that z is greater than or equal to 0. Or pwede mo rin naman siyang isulat in interval notation as interval 0 to positive infinity. Or you can also write it as r plus 0. Okay? So in this last notation, this is just the set of non-negative real numbers or yung mga positive real numbers including 0. Okay? Okay, may nagtanong kung pwede yung domain ay y plus 2x greater than or equal to 3. Yes, pwede siya. So instead, but just to be careful, the set should be the set of ordered pairs, x comma y. Pero dito sa condition, instead of y plus 2x minus 3 greater than or equal to 0, pwede mo ring isulat as y plus 2x greater than or equal to 3. Okay? Doesn't matter. Okay, for the second item, we have f of xy equals natural logarithm of x squared plus y squared minus 9. Okay? Basically, ang idea lang naman ito is titingnan mo muna kung ano yung basis function natin. In this case, in example number 2, we have a natural logarithm function. So if we have a natural logarithm function, dapat dito pa lang, ma-identify mo na on how to determine the domain and range of the function. Since you have a natural logarithm function, babalikan mo yung concept ng natural logarithm function. For the natural logarithm function, suppose you have the basic function y equals natural logarithm of x. If you have y equals natural logarithm of x, so if you have this basic function, y equals natural logarithm of x, take note here that the condition for x should be greater than 0, and actually y could be any real number. So that will be your basis in order to determine the domain and range of this this kind of function. Okay, I will just answer these two questions. Sir, no need na po ba na indicate na yung x and y is an element of R2? Okay. In Math 28 naman kasi, it is understood that our universal set is the set of real numbers or the set or the set of real numbers. Okay? So if we are just taking it in Math 28, okay, implicit na that x and y are real numbers. So hindi mo na kailangang isulat that x and y are element of R2. Okay? But wala namang masama kung isusulat mo that x and y should be an element of R2. Okay? May solution po ba sa pagkuha ng range? Kung ang tinatanong mo ay analytic solution, you will just look at the behavior of the function. So basically, ang titingnan mo lang doon is how the function behave based on its basis function. Let's say, for example, in number 1, we have a square root function. Since we have a square root function, So ang titingnan mo ay yung properties of the sphere function, that the domain or that the integrand should be greater than or equal to 0, and that the range should be a non-negative real number. Okay? For number 2, okay, balik ulit tayo sa number 2, we have a natural logarithm function. So again, kung babalikan natin yung natural logarithm function, so we have this, y equals ln x. And we know that x, here we can take x to be any number greater than 0. So if we have this function, the domain of this is the set of all x's such that x is greater than 0 or r plus. The domain is r plus. Okay? And the range is this one, the set of real numbers. So yun yung gagamitin natin na basis. Alright? So going back to this example, we have a natural logarithm function. So dapat yung argument ng natural logarithm, the argument here is x squared plus y squared minus 9. Okay? In item number 2, the argument is x squared plus y squared minus 9. Since from our basis, this one, x should be greater than 0, or the argument of the natural logarithm function should be greater than 0. That means that this one, x squared plus y squared minus 9 should be greater than 0. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 9 should be greater than 0. Or you can write it as x squared plus y squared is greater than 9. Okay? So with that, you can now write the domain of the function. Again, this is a function of two variables. So the domain of the function should be the set of ordered pairs xy such that x squared plus y squared is greater than. Okay. And how do you sketch the domain of the function? Okay. Since we have a function of two variables, the sketch of the domain can be seen in the two-dimensional system. Okay. Pwede natin siyang makita on a two-dimensional system. Ang gagamitin natin na basis in graphing the domain is this. X squared plus y squared is equal to 9. Ano nga ang graph ng x squared plus y squared equals 9 on a 2D system? Check ko lang sa YouTube. Pwede po ba directly sagot agad for the range? Yes. What is the graph of x squared plus y squared equals 9? Circle. Very good. It is a circle. Circle of radius 3, centered at the origin. Okay. Since this is an inequality, and we actually have a strict inequality. Wait lang ah. Tatry ko kung kaya ko makapag-graph ng circle dito. Ang pangit na circle ko. Yan. Maniwala na lang kay circle. Ay, mali pala. Since we have a strict inequality, so in graphing the circle, so that will just be broken lines. Okay. Okay, so this circle actually separate our entire plane into two region. The first region is the one inside the circle. The other region is outside the circle. In order to determine which of these two regions will fit in our inequality is we could take test points. Let's say we consider the origin. So the origin has coordinates 0, 0. Then need to check mo if it will satisfy the inequality. If it satisfies the inequality, then the region inside the circle is the one being considered. If not, then ang i-consider natin yung outside the region. Okay? So if we consider the origin, take note that if you substitute 0, 0 to xy, so you will be having 0 greater than 9. And note that that is not true or that is false. So ibig sabihin, hindi natin isasama yung region inside the circle. Therefore, the domain of the function are any point outside the circle. Okay? Okay, how about for the range of the function, okay, for the range of the function, take note, in this function, natural logarithm function, kung titingnan mo yung argument, okay, the argument is x squared plus y squared minus 9. Okay? In this function, or in that argument, x squared plus y squared minus 9, if you substitute any number, provided it is in the domain of the function, that could be any number, or the value of that, x squared plus y squared minus 9, could also be any number that is greater than 0. If that could be any number that is greater than 0, then no doubt that the range of the function should be the set of real numbers. The range of the function is the set of real numbers. Okay? Okay, so we go with ito na lang, sagutan natin, number 3. Then yung number 4 and number 5, iwan ko na lang sa inyo. For number 3, so again, we still have a square root function. In this square root function, g of x, y, z equals square root of 50 minus 2x squared minus 2y squared minus 2z squared. Okay? In that function, okay, in this function, pwede natin gamitin yung pwede natin gamitin yung idea na ginamit natin for item number 1. Since this is a square root function, then we should have the radicand to be greater than or equal to 0. That means 50 minus 2x squared minus 2y squared minus 2z squared should be greater than or equal to 0. So that will actually constitute the domain of the function. Mag-add lang ako ng sheet. Okay? Yung number 3 natin, g of x, y, z equals 50 minus 2x squared minus 2y squared minus 2z squared square root. Okay? So we should have the argument to be greater than or equal to 0. So that will be 50 minus 2x squared minus 2y squared minus 2z squared should be greater than or equal to 0. Or if you manipulate this expression, you should get, what should you get here? You should get x squared plus y squared plus z squared less than or equal to 25. Tama ba ako? Yeah. X squared plus y squared plus z squared equal less than or equal to 25. Okay. From this, since we have a function of 3 variables, the domain of that could be represented in a 3D space or in our 3D rectangular system, coordinate system, or Cartesian coordinate system. Okay. So ang magiging basis natin in order to determine that is the function defined or the equation defined by x squared plus y squared plus z squared equals 25. Okay. What is the graph of x squared plus y squared plus z squared equals 25 in 3D? The graph is a sphere of radius 5 units. Okay, very good. May ako sagutin yung question ni Brian sa YouTube. Okay. The graph of this is a sphere of radius 5 units with center at the origin. Okay. And since we don't have a strict inequality, since this is less than or equal, so i-consider natin yung surface ng sphere in the domain. Okay? And take note that, wait lang. Try ko na mag-graph ng sphere. Okay? So this is sphere. Okay? So take note that this sphere actually separate our 3D into two regions. The two regions are, the first region are the points inside the sphere. The second region are the points outside the sphere. Okay? Between these two regions, region 1 and region 2, okay, which do you think will satisfy the inequality? Okay. Which do you think Again, my question is between these two regions, region 1, region 1 are the points inside the sphere, and region 2 are the points outside the sphere. Which of these two regions will satisfy the inequality? Okay, very good. Region 1. Okay. Region 1 or the region inside the sphere. So that is actually the domain of the function in uh, in 3D space. All the points inside the sphere, including the points on the sphere. How do we write the domain using our set notation? So the domain of the function is the set of all, pagkakasyahin ko na lang dito, set of all x, y, z, such that x squared plus y squared plus z squared is less than or equal to 25. Okay? Okay, now, for the range of the function, para sa range, ito yung medyo crucial in this item. For the range of the function, we know that g could be any number greater than or equal to 0. We know that it could be any number greater than or equal to 0. But take note here, this expression, in that expression, pwede mo kasing i-factor out yung 2. Okay? If you will factor out 2 from the expression, what do you get? You will get square root of 2 times the square root of 25 minus x squared plus y squared plus z squared. Okay? Plus z squared. Okay. And from this expression, take note that this one, x squared plus y squared plus z squared, is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? But we also have this inequality. Okay? X squared plus y squared plus z squared is less than or equal to 25. Okay? I'll just write it down. We have x squared plus y squared plus z squared less than or equal to 25. And greater than or equal to 0. Okay? And if you manipulate this expression para makuha natin ito, okay, verify that we will get this one. 25 minus x squared plus y squared minus z squared. Sorry. Z squared is less than or equal to 25 greater than or equal to 0. Okay? And if you take the square root of this expression, you will get that this is greater than or equal to 0, but less than or equal to 5. So this one will constitute the range of the function, meaning to say this expression, the one I encircled, it will take any value from 0 to 5. If you multiply it by square root of 2, so you will get 0 to 5 square root of 2. And that will constitute the range of the function. The range of the function is a closed interval 0 to 5 square root of 2. Okay? Okay, may question dito sa YouTube. Pwede ba na negative infinity to positive infinity sa range ng number 2? Okay? If we go back to number 2, the range is the set of real numbers. If you write it in interval notation, so that will be negative infinity to positive infinity. Pareho lang. Okay? 0 to 5, hindi 0 to 5. That should be 0 to 5 square root of 2. Okay? The square root of 2 po, sorry. Yeah, 5 square root of 2. Okay? So do you have any more question with section 3.1 or are we good? So actually, ang crucial dito is in determining the domain of the function, una mo muna titingnan ilan yung variables involved. So if we have a function of 2 variables, the domain should be a subset of R2, or you will write the domain as the set of ordered pairs. If you have a function of 3 variables, so the domain should be a subset of R3, or the domain is the set of ordered triple X, Y, and Z. Okay? As for the range, it will be any subset of real number. Okay? So lagi nyo lang titingnan ano yung magiging basis function ko in order to determine the domain of the function. So lagi nyo lang babalikan yung mga basic functions that you have encountered before. Polynomial function, rational function, square root function, yung mga transcendental functions ninyo, yung mga transcendental functions, yung mga logarithmic function, exponential function, trigonometric function, and inverse trigonometric function. Okay? For the sketch of the domain, okay, lagyan nyo lang titingnan yung kinoconsider na equation in defining the domain of the function. Right? Okay, so are we good here? Okay. Okay, so now let's move to section 3.2. Section 3.2 is about contour map, level curve, level surface. Okay. Okay. So let's proceed with that. So these are the problems or exercises for contour map. So magsagot lang tayo ng ilan sa mga problems na to. So for item number 1, sketch the level curve at 1 of f of xy equals xy. Okay? When you say sketch the level curve at 1 of f of xy equals xy, ibig sabihin nito, nag-a-assign ka ng specific value for z. In this case, ang ina-assign natin na value for z ay 1. So for item number 1, we assign the value z equals 1. So that will give us an equation 1 equals x, 1. Okay? So that will give us an equation 1 equals x1. And pwede mo itong i-transform to your more common equation. Ang common equation natin from this is y equals 1 over x. Y equals 1 over x. This is our basic rational function, and I hope that you know how to graph this rational function. Okay? So this rational function, ang graph niya ay ito. Asymptotic to the x-axis and asymptotic to the y-axis. Okay? So that is the answer to number 1. For number 2, our function is f of x, y, z equals x squared plus y squared minus z squared. And nagbigay tayo ng specific value to determine the level surface. The value is 0, or w equals 0. Okay. So for number 2, w is equal to 0. So that means we will be having a function x squared plus y squared minus z squared equals 0. Okay? Kung babalikan nyo yung concept natin on quadric surfaces, what is the graph of x squared plus y squared minus z squared equals 0? Natatandaan pa ba? Elliptic cone? No. Wait lang. Tama ka pala. Sorry, man. Elliptic cone. Yeah. Elliptic cone, circular cone. Yeah. But in this elliptic cone, instead of ellipse, to be more specific, that is actually a circular cone. Okay? Or if you are familiar with analytic geometry, the two-nap cone. Okay. This is your x-axis, this is your y-axis, this is your z-axis. Okay. So that is the level curve, the level surface of item number 2. Okay. Okay, now, maybe some of you are wondering the differences of these terms. Okay? Pag sinabi nating level curve, okay, we use the word curve, we are referring to a function of two variables. Okay? So curve, ibig sabihin, kinocurve natin or ginagraph natin on a two-dimensional system. Pag sinabi naman nating level surface, so surface, we are graphing the function on three-dimensional system. So ang kino-consider natin ng mga functions dito ay mga functions of three variables. Okay? Now, contour map, ang ibig sabihin ng contour map is uh, ang contour map is a set of level curves. Okay? So pag contour map, pinagsasama-sama mo lang yung mga level curves or level surfaces natin. So this level curve, this figure can also be considered as a contour map, kaya lang isang specific value lang yung binigay natin sa Z. So pag nagdagdag pa tayo ng ibang values for Z, let's say Z equals 1, Z equals 2, Z equals 3, 4, okay? At pagsasama-samahin natin siya on one space or one system, okay? That will be your contour. Okay? So next, we answer this, item number 5. Item number 5, sketch the graph of f of xy equals x squared plus y squared. For item number 4, for item number 3 and item number 4, kayo na bahala dyan. Okay? Pagsasama-samahin niyo lang naman yung mga level curves or level surface on one system or one space, then that will be your contour map. Okay? So for item number 5, sketch the graph of f of xy equals x squared plus y squared. Or we have z equals x squared plus y squared. Okay? In sketching the graph of this, using the concept discussed in this section, ang gagawin lang natin first is to determine the level curves. And after determining the level curves, we determine the contour map. Ibig sabihin, magsiset lang tayo ng iba't ibang values for z. Okay? Then, i-graph natin yung contour map. And from that, okay, mag-graph na natin yung function on a 3D space. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, magsiset tayo ng iba't ibang values for z. Okay? So, ang kunin natin na z ay, let's say, 0, kunin ko rin si 1, kunin ko rin si 4, I'll take negative 1 and negative 4. Okay? So I will be setting 5 different values for z and kuhanin natin yung level curves at these values. Okay? If z equals 0, if z equals 0, so we will be having an equation 0 equals x squared plus y squared. What is the graph of that on a 2D space or on a Cartesian system? A point. Which point? Isa nagtuldok lang talaga yung kinoment niya. Tama naman. Point nga naman. Okay. Point origin. Okay, that is correct. Okay. How about if z equals 1? So we'll have 1 equals x squared plus y squared. What is the graph of that? Circle. Specifically, it is a unit circle. Unit circle since the radius is 1. Okay, that's correct. How about z equals 4? What is the graph or what is the level curve if z equals 4? Okay, that is correct. Circle of radius 2 units. Okay, very good. How about if z equals -1? So we will be having an equation x squared plus y squared equals -1. What is the graph of that on a 2D space? Okay, no graph, wala po, empty set. Yeah, that is correct. It is an empty set. So basically, you still have a level curve, even though z equals -1. The level curve is just an empty space. Okay? So empty space or empty set. How about for -4? Okay? For -4, this will also be obvious. So that is same with z equals -1. The level curve is an empty space. Okay? So now, so ang papansin nyo, nagkakaroon lang tayo ng graph if z is greater than or equal to 0. So kung titingnan natin on a 3D space, tingnan natin on 3D, okay? Itong vertical axis will be our z-axis. Then this is our x and y. Okay? So take note, yung x-y plane natin, yung horizontal space natin, or horizontal plane. And yung vertical axis natin, yung z-axis. Okay? Kapag ang z natin ay 0, sabihin nandito sa origin, the graph of the curve is just a point. Okay? Pero kapag ang z natin ay equal to 1, dito, 1 unit above, the graph is a circle. On the circle that is parallel to the xy plane. Okay? Then if z is equal to 2, if z equals 4 pala yung isa, no? If z equals 4, so that is 4 units above the xy plane, the graph is also a circle of radius 2 units. Okay? So the circle is parallel to the xy plane. Now, kung titingnan nyo yung ganitong klase ng graph, if you increase the value of z, or tumaas ang tumaas yung curve natin, as you increase the value of z, as you increase the value of z, the graph is also a circle. Lahat sila ay circle, pero nag-i-increase yung radius. Okay? Since nag-i-increase yung radius, okay, kung titingnan mo siya o kung titingnan mo siya sa cross section, ito yung makikita mo. Yun nandun sa right part. Okay? They are actually concentric circles. Okay? Pero in reality, ito yung magiging graph ng function. Okay? And the graph is actually anong tawag dito? Babalikan natin yung concept ng quadric surface. Ano ang tawag sa surface na ito? Okay? Circular paraboloid. Yeah, pero paraboloid ay okay na. Okay? That is a parabola. Okay? Okay, you have question? Okay. You want us to move to section 3.3? Section 3.3 is about partial derivative. Okay. Napanood nyo na ba yung video lecture on 3.3 hanggang 3.6? They are all about partial derivatives. Hanggang 3.4 pa lang po. Okay. Doon pala sa exercises, magkasama na ang sa exercises, magkasama na ang 3.3 and to 3.4. Well, anyway, in partial derivative, actually the important thing here is ang kailangan nyo lang balikan is the basic concept of differentiation or getting the derivative of a function. Basically, sa partial derivative, ina-assume mo lang na yung ibang mga variables ay constant. Okay? So you will treat the other variables as constant. Okay. So, tingnan natin yung attached exercise sa partial derivative. Okay, so ito yung exercises for section 3.3 and 3.4. Partial derivatives and chain rule. Okay? So i-run through lang natin on how to indicate or how to get the partial derivative of the function. Okay? So for number one, compute the indicated partial derivative, partial of f with respect to x, partial of f with respect to y, and partial of f with respect to z of the given function. For letter A, so that is just a polynomial function. Letter B is combination of trigonometric and logarithmic function. Letter C is combination of logarithmic and exponential function. Okay. Number 2 is just a word problem. So this is just a geometric interpretation of partial derivative. Number 3 is about chain rule. Okay? So, answer lang tayo ng isang problem with item number 1, getting the partial derivative. So, let's say, ang kunin natin ay letter B. Okay? F of x, y, z equals 2 raised to x, y cubed sine z plus y ln z. Or sorry, ln x. And we take f sub y, or the partial derivative of f with respect to y. F sub y of x, y, z. Okay. So if you will get f sub y from this function, take note na i-consider natin na constant si x and z. So let's look at the first term. 2 to the x, y cubed sine z. So 2 to the x will be considered as a constant. Sine z will be considered as a constant. So ang magiging variable lang natin dito ay y cubed. Y cubed is just a polynomial function. Ano ang derivative ng y cubed with respect to y? Again, what is the derivative of y cubed with respect to y? Three y squared. Okay, that's correct. 3y squared. When we say derivative, hindi na natin nilalagay yung dy. Okay? So the derivative of y cubed is 3y squared. All right. So yung 3y squared na yan, i-multiply lang natin dun sa ibang coefficients ng term na yon, 2 to the x sine z. So we will have 3 times 2 to the x sine z y squared. Okay? Para hindi ka malito, lagyan mo ng mga parentheses. Just to be safe. Alright. Next. Plus, ano ngayon ang derivative ng y ln x? Take note, we are taking the derivative with respect to y. What is the derivative of y ln x? Okay. That's correct. The derivative is ln x. Why? Because in this function, ln x is considered as a constant. So ang variable lang natin dito ay y. And we know that the derivative of y is just 1. So that will be ln x. So that's how to determine or how to get partial derivative. Kino-consider mo lang yung ibang mga variables as a constant. Okay? Now let's look at this problem, item number 2. Okay. Determine the slope of the tangent line on the curve of intersection of the surface of f of xy equals x squared plus y squared and the plane y equals -1 at the point -2, -1, 5. Sketch the surface, the plane y equals -1, and the tangent line at the point -2, -1, 5. Okay? Again, basahin ko yung problem. or interpret ko rather yung problem. You have a surface given by the equation f of xy equals x squared plus y squared. We've already seen this function a while ago. This function, f of xy equals x squared plus y squared, we know that the graph of that function is a paraboloid. Okay? That is a paraboloid opening upward. Okay? Now, you have a plane y equals -1. So that plane is actually parallel to the xz axis. Okay? That is parallel to the xz axis, okay, where the given value of y is -1. Okay? Ang hinahanap natin dito ay slope of the tangent line. Okay? At the intersection of the surface and the plane at this point, -2, -1, 5. Okay? So, take note, since y equals -1, ang corresponding y value naman natin ay -1. So, sure tayo na itong point na to ay nandun sa plane. Okay? Then, i-verify na lang natin if this point is on the paraboloid. Okay? Is that point on the paraboloid? Ibig sabihin, ang x mo ay -2, ang y mo ay -1, ang corresponding value mo for z is 5. If you substitute -2 and -1 to the function, take note f of -2, -1 is equal to 5. Okay? 5, which is correspondingly the z value of the given point. So meaning to say, this order triple is indeed on the paraboloid. Okay? So you have a paraboloid, you have a plane intersecting the paraboloid, and we are asked to determine the slope of the tangent line. In determining the slope of the tangent line, okay, kung babalikan natin yung geometric interpretation of a derivative of a function of a single variable, let's say we have the function y equals f of x. Okay. Balikan natin yung concept ng derivative on a single variable. Pag kinuha natin yung derivative, dy over dx, okay, in-evaluate natin at a specific point, in-evaluate natin, let's say, at A, so that will be f prime of A. That value, f prime of A, is actually the slope of the tangent line at the curve, the slope of the tangent line of the function at the point A, f of A. So meaning to say, just get the derivative of the function, evaluate the derivative at a specific point at x equals A, then you get the slope of the tangent line. Provided, of course, that your function is differentiable at A. Okay? So now, using that, nasa na tayo? Okay. In this problem, pinifix natin yung value ng y. Okay? Since pinifix natin yung value ng y, ang nagva-vary na lang dito ay yung x. So in determining the slope of the tangent line, kukuhanin natin yung partial derivative of the function with respect to x. Okay? Since finix natin yung y to be equal to -1, ang variable to be considered here is x. So kuhanin natin ang f sub x. Ano ang partial derivative of the function with respect to x? So if your function f of xy equals x squared plus y squared, what is the partial derivative with respect to x? Okay, very good. 2x. So the partial derivative is 2x. Now, you already have the partial derivative. What is the partial derivative evaluated at x equals, given a point, negative 2? What is f sub x of xy evaluated at negative 2? Negative 4. That's correct. That is negative 4. Therefore, this is the slope of the tangent line. Okay. Ipakita ko lang sa inyo yung graph nito para lang ma-visualize ninyo. Okay. So ito yung graph ng function. So take note, ito yung paraboloid. Okay. So just for an orientation, ito yung positive x-axis. Etong nasa likod, yung green na line, papunta sa likod, that is your positive y-axis. Okay? So, and this is your positive z-axis. So, you have a paraboloid opening upward. Okay? Etong plane na to, this has an equation given by y equals 1. So, you have a plane, in-intersect mo with the paraboloid. And take note, the intersection of the plane and the paraboloid is this one. Yung parabola. Okay? So that is the intersection of the plane and the paraboloid. And, nasaan yung point? Ito. Ito, yung point, ano nga tong point na to? Negative 2, negative 1, 5. Okay? Ito yung point, negative 2, negative 1, 5, somewhere here. Okay? And itong black line na to, straight line na to, this is the tangent line. Okay? So that black line, that is the tangent line. Okay? Intersecting the parabola. This parabola is the intersection of the paraboloid and the plane y equals negative 1. And take note that the slope of this line is negative 4. Ang orientation natin para makuha natin yung slope na to is parallel to the xz plane. Okay? Yung horizontal axis natin ay yung x-axis natin, yung vertical axis natin ay yung z-axis natin. Okay? So that is the slope of the tangent line. Okay? So let's move to the next one. Sa number 3 naman, this is, ano to? Chain rule. So, for number 3, so this is chain rule. So take note here, we have a function w with respect to x, y, and z. Okay? We have a function w with respect to x, y, and z. But these variables, x, y, and z, are functions of s and t. Okay? So x is a function, sorry. X is a function of s and r. Y is a function of r, t, and s. And z is a function of t and s. Okay? So in determining the partial derivative of the function, let's say w, alam kasi natin si w ay with respect to x, y, and z. Okay? Pero dito, kinukuha mo yung partial derivative of w with respect to r. Okay? Not with respect to x, y, or z, with respect to r. So ibig sabihin, in getting the partial derivative of w with respect to r, dadaan ka pa rin sa partial derivative of x and y and z. Okay? So pwede natin siyang tingnan on a tree diagram. Si W, okay, tingnan natin sa tree diagram, si W ay functions of x, y, and z. Okay? Si W ay functions of x, y, and z. Balikan ko lang. Si x ay function of s and r. Si x ay function of s and r. Si y ay function of r, s, and t. So si y ay function of r, s, and t. Si z ay function of s and t. Si z ay function of s and t. Okay? Now, kunin ko na lang ito. Partial of w with respect to t. Okay? Kunin natin yung partial of w with respect to t. So first, in determining the partial derivative, okay, kailangan muna nating masulat yung corresponding formula niya. So for the partial of w with respect to t, partial of w with respect to t, okay? So with respect to t, pahanapin mo lang dito yung dadaanan from w papunta kay t. Okay? Kung mapapansin nyo, kapag si w, kinuha mo yung partial with respect to x, pero si x naman ay hindi function ni t, ang makukuha mo lang sa kanya ay 0. Meaning to say, yung partial ni x with respect to t is just 0. Okay? Because x is a function of just s and r. Okay? Next. Kung dadaan ka kay y, meron siyang t. Okay? So we need to get the partial of W with respect to Y and the partial of Y with respect to T. Maisasama natin siya dun sa formula. So ano yung magiging formula? So that will be partial of W with respect to Y times partial of Y with respect to T. Okay? Plus, kung titingnan mo si Z, meron siya. Meron din siyang T. Okay? So, kasama din siya dun sa formula. So that will be partial of W with respect to Z times partial of Z with respect to T. Okay? Again, yung kay X naman kasi, pwede mo pa rin siyang isulat. Pwede pa rin naman nating isama siya. Pwede pa rin natin siyang isama. Partial of W with respect to X times partial of X with respect to T. But, in this case, si partial of X with respect to T, kung babalikan natin yung function, okay, X is S squared minus T to the R. Wala siyang variable na T. So if you take the derivative of this with respect to T, ibig sabihin nito si S squared ay constant. Derivative of a constant is 0. Si E to the R ay constant if our variable is T. So derivative of that is 0. So that means ang partial ni X with respect to T will just be 0. So this term will just eventually cancel. Okay? Ngayon, isa-isahin natin yung mga partials. Okay. So first term, ano ang partial derivative ni W with respect to Y? Ito yun. Okay. What is the derivative of W with respect to Y? Okay, X squared plus Z. Dali lang, no? X squared plus Z. So that will be X squared plus Z. Okay? I-multiply natin siya ngayon sa partial ni Y with respect to T. What is the partial of Y with respect to T? The partial is R squared over S. Okay, very good. R squared over S. Okay. Plus, next term. What is the partial derivative of W with respect to Z? Partial derivative of W with respect to Z. That is Y minus 2xz. Very good. That is Y minus 2xz multiplied to, what is the partial of Z with respect to T? Partial of Z with respect to T is cosine T. Very good. Lagay ka na lang dito sa baba. Cosine T. Okay? So that is the partial of W with respect to T. Okay? So that is about chain rule for partial derivative. Okay. Okay, are you still good? Okay tayo? Okay. Hmm. Actually, kapag nakuha niyo na ng maayos yung concept ng 3.4, 3.3 and 3.4, hindi kayo mahihirapan sa 3.5 and 3.6. Kasi sa 3.5 and 3.6, these are just extensions. So ibig sabihin, nagdadagdag lang tayo ng ibang mga formulations on how to get partial derivative. Okay? Sa 3.5, that is implicit differentiation. So ibig sabihin, implicit differentiation, hindi explicitly sinasabi, hindi explicit yung pagka-describe ng function. So usually, in 3 point, in implicit differentiation, wait lang, open ko lang yung file ng exercises. Okay, and i-describe ko lang yung formula on how to get derivative using implicit differentiation. Okay? So sa implicit differentiation, let's say with number 1, z is a function of x and y. Okay? So we know that there is a function z with respect to x and y. Pero kung titingnan mo yung function, x plus y squared, x y squared plus xy square root of z equals ln of zy. Okay? If z is a function of x and y, dapat kapag explicit yung function, magkakaroon tayo ng ganito. Z equals f of x, y. Wherein we have some function as an expression of x and y. But by looking at that function, mahirap i-express yung z in terms of x and y. You just have to solve the equation in terms of z, okay, to get that function if you want it to be explicit. That's why in getting the partial derivative, gumagamit tayo ng implicit differentiation. So sa implicit differentiation, meron tayong function f of x, y, z equals 0. Okay? So ibig sabihin, si x, y, and z magkakasama na sa equation na to. Then, sa right-hand side, gagawin mo lang 0. Okay? Now, let's say we want to solve for the partial of z with respect to x. Okay? We want to solve for the partial of z with respect to x. Okay? So dito magdadagdag lang tayo ng formula. Okay? So that will be the negative of f sub x over f sub z. Okay? Negative of f sub x over f sub z. Okay? So take note on how we write the partial. Kinukuha natin yung partial of z with respect to x because we have implicitly defined that there is a function z, okay, in terms of x and y. Okay? So dito, in the formula, okay, don't forget the negative, then yung nasa numerator, ay kukuhanin mo yung partial with respect to the variable in the denominator. Since ang nasa denominator natin dun sa problem ay x, so yung nasa numerator ay partial with respect to x. Ang nasa numerator natin ay z, so yung nasa denominator natin for the partial ay with respect to z. Okay? Now, using our problem, xy squared plus xy square root of z equals ln of zy. Kailangan munang i-define pala natin yung capital F natin dito. From here, ano ang capital F natin? Ang capital F of x, y, z. Dito madali lang na makuhanin yung capital F. Ang gagawin mo lang from the equation, gawin mo lang 0 yung right hand side, yung left, yung lahat ng expression ilipat mo sa left. So that will just be x, y squared plus xy square root of z minus ln of zy. Okay? So that is our capital F. From that, yung nasa numerator natin, partial ni capital F with respect to z. So kukuhanin mo lang yung derivative nito, partial ni F with respect to x. Kukuhanin mo lang yung derivative nito with respect to x. Ano ang derivative nito with respect to x? So that will be y squared plus y square root of z. Derivative nito with respect to x will be 0 kasi wala naman siyang x na variable. Over. Then yung nasa denominator naman, kukuhanin mo yung derivative with respect to z. Okay? First term, xy squared, derivative of that with respect to z is 0 kasi wala naman siyang variable na z. Second term, meron kang square root of z, derivative of square root of z, dapat by this time, memorize nyo na yan. Ang derivative of that with respect to z is 1 over 2 square root of z. So that will be xy over 2 square root of z. Okay. Third term, ln of zy, derivative of that is 1 over zy. Okay? Then, i-multiply natin to sa derivative ni zy with respect to z. And derivative of zy with respect to z is just 1. So that is the partial derivative of z with respect to x. No need to simplify kung hindi naman pinapasimplify sa inyo yung expression. Okay? So that's basically for implicit differentiation. Ang idea lang in implicit differentiation is isi-set mo lang yung isang side ng expression mo to 0. All of the other expressions will be moved to the left side or will be moved to the other side of the expression. Okay? Then you will just do the usual differentiation techniques in order to get the derivative of the function. Ang wag nyo lang kakalimutan ay yung formula. Okay? Let's say we want to get the partial of z with respect to y. Okay? If you want to get the partial of z with respect to y, so that will be, using the mnemonics we have a while ago, that will be negative of f sub y, kasi y yung nasa denominator, over f sub z. Okay? So that is for implicit differentiation. Okay? Okay, do you have a question so far? Sino sa inyo yung umabot na ng 3.6? May I know? Okay, one. Okay, marami na rin namang umabot sa 3.6. Okay ba kayo sa 3.6? Nadalian ba kayo? I think madali lang naman yung topic na yon. Ang 3.6 ay higher order derivative. Okay? So basic lang with, similar with differentiation using differentiation of single variable. So ang higher order derivative ay kukuhanin mo lang ang derivative ng derivative. Okay? Okay, similar lang naman yung process. Medyo tedious lang siyang gawin kasi ilang beses mong kukuhanin ang derivative na function. Okay? And explain ko lang siguro yung mga notations. Punta ulit tayo dun sa exercises. Okay? Pero dito sa exercises, hindi ko nasasagutan ito kasi kukuhanin mo lang naman yung derivative ng function. But I will just give some clarifications regarding the notations. Kasi baka, yung iba kasi nakakalito dito. Okay? Let's say we have this function, w equals f of x, y, z equals 2 to the x, y cubed sine z plus y ln x. And compute the following. Okay? So from here, let's look at this function. Letter A, partial of w with respect to, partial squared of w over partial y, partial x. In this notation, okay, in order to get the second order partial of w with respect to y and with respect to x, ang pagbasa dun sa denominator ay from right to left. Okay? Ibig sabihin, from the function W, kukuhanin mo muna yung partial niya with respect to x. Okay? So from this function, kukuhanin mo muna yung partial niya with respect to x. Now, you have the partial of W with respect to x. After that, tsaka mo kukuhanin yung partial with respect to y. Okay? So again, if you have the function W, kuhanin mo muna yung partial derivative of that with respect to x. Then after that, once you have the partial derivative with respect to x, the result, okay, from the result, kukuhanin mo naman yung partial with respect to y. And kung ano man yung makuha mo doon, that will be the partial of W with respect to y, then x. Okay? For this letter B, okay, look at letter B. Okay, iba naman yung pagka-describe niya or pagka-express niya ng higher order partial derivative. So that will be, dito sa letter B, kinukuha natin yung third order partial derivative with respect to x, z, y. Again, ang pagbasa or pagkuha ng partial derivative from the denominator, you will start from right to left. So from the function f, kukuhanin mo muna yung derivative niya with respect to y. After that, from the result, kuhanin mo naman yung partial derivative with respect to z. And from the result, kuhanin mo yung partial derivative with respect to x. Okay? So, ganun lang kadali ang pagkuha ng higher order partial derivative. Just be careful with the notation. Okay? Look at letter C. Sa letter C naman, okay, actually yung letter A and letter B, yung gumagamit ng partial notation, yung gumagamit ng ganitong notation to indicate the partial derivative. Okay? Ito ay galing kay Leibniz. That is actually the Leibniz notation. Okay? Doon sa letter C naman, yung naglalagay ka lang ng subscript ng mga variables, ito naman ay galing kay Newton. Okay? This is the Newton notation. Okay. In this notation, F, look at the subscript, Y, Z, Y, X. Ang dami naman ito. Apat. So dun sa letter C, ang kinukuha mo naman ay yung fourth order partial derivative. Pero dito sa fourth order partial derivative, iba naman yung ordering nito. Ang ordering naman nito ay from left to right. Okay? Again, yung order naman nito ay from left to right. So in order to get the fourth partial derivative, okay, kukuhanin mo muna yung partial derivative of the function with respect to y. After that, get the partial with respect to z. After that, get the partial with respect to y. And after that, get the partial with respect to x. Okay? So, ganun lang siya. Pero kung gagamit tayo ng notation ni Newton, from left to right yung orientation natin sa kanya. But if you will be using the Leibniz notation, the orientation is from right to left. Okay? And there is actually one theorem concerning higher order partial derivative. Okay? Sabi natin, let's say if we have the Newton notation, suppose we have a function with respect to x and y. Okay? In order to get f sub x, y, okay, kukuhanin mo muna yung partial with respect to x. Then after that, get the partial with respect to y. Okay? Also, if you have this notation, f sub y x, okay? If you have this notation, f sub y x, from the function f, kuhanin mo muna yung partial niya with respect to y, then after that, get the partial with respect to x. Right? Now, there is actually one theorem in that video lecture that these two expressions may actually be equal. Pwede silang maging equal at a specific point. X sub 0, y sub 0. Okay? Gawin muna natin x sub 0, y sub 0. Then later, i-generalize natin. Okay. My question now is, when will these two expressions be equal? Kailan nagiging equal yung f sub x, y at f sub y, x pag in-evaluate natin at x sub 0, y sub 0? Take note, magkaiba ang orientation nitong dalawang to. Doon sa first expression, ang orientation natin, kuhanin mo muna yung partial derivative ni f with respect to x, then with respect to y. Doon sa second expression naman natin, kinukuha natin yung partial derivative with respect to y, then with respect to x. But there is a theorem in that lecture that these two expressions can be equal. And what is the condition? Anyone? Doon sa mga sumagot na natapos na nila ang 3.6. Yan nga natin. What is the condition that f sub xy will be equal to f sub yx? Ano, ang daming sumagot to. If both are continuous at x sub 0, y sub 0. What do you mean both? Actually, hindi both. Yung function itself, not the partial derivative. Okay? If your function f is continuous at x sub 0, y sub 0. Yan actually yung condition. If the function is continuous at x sub 0, y sub 0, then the two expressions will be equal. Okay? Ano yung takeaway point from here? The takeaway point from here is that if you know that your function is continuous, okay, hindi nagmamatter yung orientation. Hindi nagmamatter kung ano yung uunahin mong variable na kuhanan ng partial derivative. Okay? Kung x man or kung y man. Especially if you are concerned with the final answer. Okay? So sa f sub xy, ang gusto mo lang makuha yung final value, f sub xy. So instead of getting f sub xy, kung mas comfortable ka sa f sub yx, you can do that because you know that the function is continuous. Okay? And incidentally, if your function is continuous on the whole domain at hindi lang sa x sub 0, y sub 0, then therefore yung f sub xy ay equal sa f sub yx for any value of x and y provided that these values is in the domain of the function. Okay? Again, if your function is continuous on its domain, kahit ano pa yung ipalit mo na value ni x and y dun sa partial derivative, okay, f sub xy will always be equal to f sub yx. Okay? And you can also do that in this third exercise. You will verify that f sub xy is equal to f sub yx. and for the given function. Okay? I want you to do that para lang makita nyo that indeed f sub xy is equal to f sub yx. The challenge here is you should know how to simplify expression. Okay? Okay? So, do you have questions or clarifications? Or naintindihan nyo naman yung ating discussions now? Do you want to have another discussion next week?
Yes po.
All right.
Yes po.
Okay, okay. Siguro ang gagawin ko na lang na discussion next week ay same time. Nababother ako dito kay Cynthia Villar. Bakit ang pangalan mo ay Cynthia Villar? Kinakabahan tuloy ako. May senator tayong kasama dito. Anyway, bali ang magiging coverage natin for next week. Tinan mo, na-intriga din sila kay Cynthia Villar. Ang magiging coverage natin for next week ay 3.7 hanggang 3.11. Okay? I suggest na before entering into our synchronous discussion ay panoorin ang video lecture for 3.7 to 3.11. Okay? Yung mga video lectures na to, these are not as easy as today's topic. Kasi this will involve extrema of functions involving several variables, Lagrange optimization, total differentials. So, panoorin ang video lectures, sagutan yung quizzes, and try to answer first the exercises in those topics. Okay? Para pagdating natin sa synchronous discussion, okay, I believe mas marami kayong maitatanong to that discussion. Okay? So kung meron kayong mga questions, at hand, pwede kayo mag-email na sa akin agad, okay, regarding the question, para pagdating natin sa synchronous discussion ay masasagot ko na siya, especially kapag hindi nyo naintindihan. Okay? Na nalilito kayo sa mga topics na to or sa concept na to, paano kumuha ng Hessian, paano kumuha ng Lagrange multipliers, okay? And so on. So, sabihan nyo ako agad para ma-address ko yung mga questions na yon once we go into this synchronous discussion. Okay? So, I think ayun lang for now. So magsisend na lang ako ng email dun sa members ng group ko. But of course, this is open for any students in the Math 28 Bridging Program. Kahit si Cynthia Villar, pwede ka pa rin namang makijoin sa ating discussion. Okay? So siguro yung members na lang from my group, yung magi-inform na lang sa inyo regarding the link. Okay? And of course, kung meron kayo mga immediate questions that you need to be answered right away, please consult your learning mentor. Okay? So, I think that will be all. Kung wala na kayong questions, see you next week. Bye.
Thank you po, sir.
You're welcome.
どうもありがとうございます。
You're welcome.
Thank you po.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po.
You're welcome.
Thank you po, sir.
Welcome. Hindi ba magpapakilala si Cynthia Villar? Next week, alamin natin kung sino si Cynthia Villar. Shy daw siya. Okay.